Welcome again to the Sunday Gorilla Men's Bible Study. I'm Brother Thomas Lee Harris III, and we're continuing in our journey through the Gospel according to Matthew, and we have reached the 27th chapter. These are the sadder chapters, but they bring a great joy to us everlasting. Amen. Chapter 27, the Gospel according to Matthew, verse 1. When morning came, all the chief priests and elders of the people plotted against Jesus to put him to death. And when they had bound him, they led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate, the governor. Then Judas, his betrayer, seeing that he had been condemned, was remorseful and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders. I want to highlight that. And the reason why, I got to be brief because this is a long chapter. I mean, Judas did what he did. Amen. I'm going to leave it at that. Verse 4. Saying, I have sinned and betrayed innocent blood. And they said, what is that to us? You see to it. Then he threw down the pieces of silver in the temple and departed and went and hanged himself. So we're gonna highlight that. But the chief priest took the silver pieces and said, it is not lawful to put them into the treasury because they are the price of blood. And they consulted together and brought with them the potter's field to bury strangers in. Therefore, that field has been called the field of blood to this day. I want to highlight 7. All right, verse 8. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, they took 30 pieces of silver, the value of him who was priced, whom they... Amen. Let me start that again, verse 9. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, they took the 30 pieces of silver, the value of him who was priced, whom they of the children of Israel priced, and gave them for a potter's field, as the Lord directed me. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, saying, are you king of the Jews? And Jesus said to him, it is as you say. And while he was being accused by the chief priests and elders, he answered nothing. Then Pilate said to him, do you not hear how many things they testify against you? But he answered him not one word. So the governor marveled greatly. Now at the feast the governor was accustomed to releasing to the multitude one prisoner whom they wished. And at that time they had a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. Therefore they that gathered together, Pilate said to them, whom do you want me to release, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ? For they knew they had handed him over because of envy. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent to him, saying, have nothing to do with that just man, for I have suffered many things today in a dream because of him. But the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitudes that they should ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. Verse 21. The governor answered and said to them, which of the two do you want me to release to you? They said, Barabbas. Pilate said to them, what then shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ? They all said to him, let him be crucified. Verse 23. Then the governor said, what evil has he done? But they cried out all the more, saying, let him be crucified. Then Pilate saw that he could not prevail at all, but rather that the tumult was rising, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person. You see to it. Verse 25. And all the people answered and said, his blood is on us and on our children. Then he released Barabbas to them, and when he had scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus to the praetorium and gathered the whole garrison around him. And they stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. Verse 29. And when they had twisted a crown of thorns, they put it on his head, and a reed in his right hand. And they bowed the knee before him and mocked him, "Hail the King of the Jews." So they spat on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. And when they mocked him, they took the robe off him, put his own clothes on him, and led him away to be crucified. Now as they came out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name. Him they compelled to bear his cross. And when they had come to the place called Golgotha, this is to say the place of skulls, they gave him sour wine mingled with gall to drink. But when he had tasted it, he would not drink. Verse 35. They crucified him, divided his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet. They divided my garments among them. For my clothing they cast lots. Verse 36. Sitting down, they kept watch over him there. And they put up over his head the accusations written against him. This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. Verse 38. Then two robbers were crucified with him, one on the right hand and another on the left. And those who passed by blasphemed him, wagging their heads, and saying, You who destroyed the temple and built it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross. Verse 41. Likewise the chief priests also, mocking with the scribes and elders, said, He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he is King of Israel, let him come down from the cross, and we will believe him. Verse 43. He trusted in God. Let him deliver him now if he will have him. For he said, I am the Son of God. Even the robbers who were crucified with him reviled him with the same thing. Verse 45. Verse 45. Now from the 6th hour until the 9th hour there was darkness over all the land. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. This is my God, why have you forsaken me? Verse 47. Some of those who stood there, when they heard that, said, This man is calling for Elijah. Immediately one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with sour wine and put it on a reed and offered it to him to drink. And the rest said, Let him alone. Let him see if Elijah will come and save him. And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit. Verse 51. Then behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earthquake and rocks were split. Then the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the graves after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many. Verse 54. So when the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and the things that happened, they feared greatly, saying, Truly, this was the Son of God. And many women who followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him, were there looking on from afar, among whom were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and mother of Zebedee's son. Now when evening had come, there came a rich man from Aramea named Joseph, who himself had become a disciple of Jesus. This man went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate commanded the body to be given to him. Then Joseph had taken the body and wrapped it in clean linen cloth. Verse 60. And had laid it in a new tomb which had been hewn out of the rock. And he rolled a large stone against the door of the tomb and departed. And Mary Magdalene was there, and the other Mary sitting opposite the tomb. On the next day they followed On the next day, which followed the day of preparation, the chief priests and Pharisees gathered together to Pilate. Verse 63, saying, Sir, we remember while he was alive how the deceiver said, After 3 days I will rise again. Therefore command that the tomb may be made secure until the 3rd day, lest the disciples come by night and steal him away. Say to the people he has risen from the dead. So the last deception will be worse than the first. And Pilate said to them, You have a guard, go your way, make it as secure as you know. So they went and made the tomb secure, sealing the stone and setting the guard. Amen. And that concludes the 27th chapter in the book of Matthew.